Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of AIPC Inspired, where we bring you inspired conversations from inspired minds. My name is Aalim, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the All India Professionals Congress, your platform for progress. And today with me, I'm pleased to be in conversation to compare notes with a professional for progress in the truest sense. He's a lawyer, businessman, widely traveled, widely read, and widely known. He is Mr. Karti Chidambaram.
Hi Aalim, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for talking to us and for talking to our AIPC fellows. We've got a few questions for you, sir, which will draw upon the various facets to the unique leader that you are. We thought we'd start with just some situational questions to get to know, to get our viewers to get a chance to understand some of the principal components that have driven your career. And then maybe we can talk a little bit about you, the professional. You are a member of parliament from one of India's greatest states, Tamil Nadu. You are well traveled, you're well read. You've been able to see and do a lot of things. Yet you've come back home and you've really chosen to pick up the mantle of public service in a very real way. You live in Delhi, you commute. How do you manage to do all of that and still maintain a sense of coherence?
See, I've been very privileged, and I continue to be very privileged. I have a very illustrious father, so entry into politics or recognition is courtesy him. So, and I've been involved in. I've always been interested in politics right from my school days, and it's something which I've always paid keen attention to. And participation in political activity, of course, came naturally because I grew up in a home where there was always political activity. My father was in politics well before I was born, so I grew up around and in a political environment. So, and because he's been contesting elections, his first election was in fact in 1977. In fact, I was 6 years old, and I still remember very vividly going on stage and reciting a poem my maternal grandmother composed. At that time, the symbol of the Congress party was the cow and the calf. So involvement in electoral politics, involvement in party politics came about because me being his son. But I've always been interested in it. And when the opportunity came, I did take that opportunity up. It came up for the first time in 2014, where the entire Congress party in Tamil Nadu lost. And but then again in 2019 the opportunity came, and of course we had a good election because the environment was good for the Congress and good for the secular forces in Tamil Nadu, and here I am in parliament. So as far as transcending the many worlds I exist in, there are no real contradictions. It's just a question of balance. I mean, I always tell people that I have a professional life, I have a personal life, and I have a political life. And I don't intend giving up any one of them. And I really don't believe in this 24/7 politician at all, unless you're in government. I mean, especially if you have to balance other things. And I don't see any harm in you balancing the various facets one have in life. And with communication tools and ease of travel, I don't think it's too complicated to manage it as long as you can prioritize and do things you want to do.
Do you think that balance makes you more relatable to your constituents?
It sometimes makes me relatable, and sometimes also alienates me. I think so. You see, the skill sets you need today to be a good constituency MP is very different from the skill sets you need to be a good MP who's a good legislator in parliament. Because in the constituency, people see the MP who's actually the highest directly elected quote-unquote official in India, directly by the people. So, and most people in a constituency want, I would not say interference, but need interference in a certain way to make sure services are delivered to them. I want better, I need water supply, I need a road, I need a job, I need the police station to take my complaint, I need you to do something. It's always interventions and interference, and interventions, interference is not the right word, interventions at that level. But when you come to parliament, you are expected to participate in debates which which make in the myriad laws of the land. So there are completely two different skill sets, and I think very few people can actually be good at both. And so, so to say you're a great parliamentarian means nothing in your constituency, and to say you're a very good constituency MP means nothing for your performance in parliament. So it is a bit complicated, but most of us manage it. And in Tamil Nadu, I know what I say might sound a little contrarian. Performance in the constituency does not make you win elections, because I believe that 90% of the people do not know the name of their MP. Perhaps throughout India, most people do not know. More people who know the name of their councillor, fewer people who know the name of their MLA, and very few people know the name of their MP. The MP is a little too far removed from them. So it's really not performance which makes makes an MP get elected or defeated. It's actually the political climate of the day, the formation you're part of, the perception people have of who they want to be to rule India, or who they don't want to rule India, will make you win. So performance in parliament and performance in constituency are two completely different things, and one has to strike a balance between two. I don't know whether I'm doing a great job or not. It's for people who watch parliament to decide about that, and for my constituents to decide whether I am a good constituency MP or not. But I try to be as accessible as possible. I try to intercede and intervene whenever it's necessary to make sure services are available to the people there. And I actually put out a monthly report on what I did. I mean, I don't know whether anybody bothers to read it, but for transparency's sake, I actually say what is the kind of interventions I've done for the whole month. I do that. So
no, so I mean, aside from the unique perspective, you've also managed to find a very clear distinction between the audience you have here and the audience you have in the constituency. In your time as an MP in Parliament, you have managed to make a very significant impression. And I say impression based on perspective. If you're on one side of the house, then they're opposed to our party. They're opposed to our ideology, so they have their viewpoint. On our end of the house, we are opposed to certain things done by the current dispensation. There have been several instances where you have spoken very coherently and passionately about issues that are of importance to you. I know there are many, many issues, but would you be willing to share with us some of the key sort of issues that you have raised and will continue to raise?
See, unfortunately, the way the parliament is geared today, the BJP can get away with anything. Tomorrow morning, Mr. Modi can decide to pass a law saying that all crows in India are white. And that law will be passed. Today, debates in parliament are pointless for the voting in parliament, because everybody's made up their mind. And also, everybody votes according to the party whip. What I have been speaking about, not that I've spoken too many times in my time in parliament, is that the clear chipping away of individual liberty and the advent of a complete totalitarian state. Every law, pretty much, which is passed by this government takes away the rights of the states, takes away the rights of the individuals, and centralizes everything in the hands of the central government and to a committee which it will, or an oversight which it will appoint, which will control, which will hire, and which will fire. So it's complete centralization of power is happening in India. It's not happening in a creeping manner, it's happening in a rapid manner. Every single law which is passed by this government is only towards centralization of power. Chipping away at federalism, chipping away at individual liberty. Both of those things are completely damned by this government.
You know, as a person who's been trained in the legal profession, where do you see, this sort of overt centralization going in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's not going to go away, because the way I see it, there is a large section of India, which is particularly the Hindu part of India, the Hindi heartland, the Hindutva vote bank of India, seems to like this. They seem to like this for muscular Hindutva state, which is being created, which has come about. And they like this. I don't think they are concerned about it. The ones who are concerned about it are the states where they have strong regional parties, and where we have states which are not native Hindi speakers. That is where the pushback is coming from. The pushback is not coming from central and north of India. I think that population seems to like this centralization and the agenda of this government. The pushback is coming from states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Bengal, Maharashtra to a certain extent, Punjab. It is states which do not speak Hindi, where there are strong regional parties there, that the pushback is coming from. But I don't see a quick reversal of this until there is some sort of a concerted political alignment, which will take a lot of effort, which will take a lot of sacrifice, effort to make it happen.
You'd mentioned a very important word, pushback. We see a sort of, as you said, a sort of centralization, a very overt attempt to paint everyone with one brush, whatever color that brush may be. But as you said, from the south, your state of Tamil Nadu, for example, there is a certain effort to counter that. We see a resurgence, for example, of Tamil pride. We see a resurgence or sort of what could be a reawakening of the people to their cultural roots, which may have for a very long time been there but not as overtly because of the sort of way in which things are going now. Do you see this as an opportunity for a new cultural renaissance where people re-embrace their roots?
See, in Tamil Nadu, I think the Tamil identity was always there, particularly after the advent of the Dravidian political parties, which have been in power since 67. I think the identity was always there. But I think the threat is far more overt now because of this Hindi Hindutva agenda. But I don't think it's a new assertion by Tamil Nadu. It may be a much more overt assertion now. Because people are quite upset about this Hindi Hindutva agenda where you want to have one language, one this, one that. See, even this whole Jallikattu protest which happened in Tamil Nadu was nothing to do with Jallikattu. Jallikattu was the catalyst, was the trigger. But there were lots of underlying points of stress which led to that. For example, central recruitment for central services, Hindi signboards, standardized entrance exams from the central government. So the pushback came for various reasons, not just for the fact that a cultural identity of Tamil Nadu was not being allowed to happen. But Tamil identity has always been there. It's only going to get more and more accentuated because of the overt push for the Hindi language and also this oneness, which is really obliterating your individual identities, which this BJP wants to thrust upon us.
Putting the mirror before us and looking at our movement, the movement of the people, the Indian National Congress, we often refer to it, the party is often referred to as a big tent party. It's a party where you have representation, not only within the political framework, but even the governmental framework that we become when we win elections, that we have been. There is a representation across the spectrum. UPA 2, UPA 1, the representation of the executive. The executive embodied pretty much all the cultural identities of India in some form or the other. We're now in this process of expansion of party again, this expansion of membership. You've had some views on the subject. Would you mind sharing with our viewers what those views are?
See, the Congress party continues to be an all-encompassing tent. People of various ideological views, various social views, various economic views can easily coexist and thrive within the Congress party. I am a good example of that. I am right of center economically and I am left of center socially. No other political party will allow somebody with my background and my views and my outspokenness to thrive. So I cannot see myself in any other political party. I will never be comfortable in any other political formation other than the Congress party. The Congress party gives us the luxury to be individuals at the same time being part of a collective. Any other political party will straitjacket you and will completely stifle you in your thought process. The Congress party allows that great freedom. This is the strength of the Congress party. But organizationally, there are lots of things which we need to do in order to counter what we are facing. We are facing a well-oiled electoral machine which is on a one-point agenda, which is built itself around a one-point agenda. To counter that, we need to definitely rejig the way we operate, the way we present ourselves, the way we articulate various things. Our organization has to become a little bit more coherent and much more focused. For that, I have a slightly different view from how the AICC views it. I don't believe in this open membership of a political party. I always like to differentiate between members and sympathizers. It's not only us, but all political parties go through these massive enrollment drives where they claim they have hundreds and thousands and lakhs of members. I don't believe that they are really members of a political party. A member of a political party commits time on a regular basis and is committed to the political party because on a broad ideological level, they like to stand up with the political party in good times and bad times. All these members we gather during these drives, which we do it in the Youth Congress and in the parent party, might be tenuous sympathizers. They would be with us in good times. They are not going to stand with us in our programs and in our propaganda all the time. So I would prefer that we don't do that and only focus our efforts in building this hardcore cadre of the party.
You know, one of the other things we see is there's been a whole bunch of different state elections that have happened. Each one has had some form of, to put it mildly, intrigue. You know, the political circus tends to have various attractions. In some senses, you have this mass scale, wholesale buying and selling of MLAs, almost like a commodity, like a trade. In other senses, we have seen some of the Congress governments have serious problems of a loser who's not respected the mandate of the people. I mean, in principle, when one party loses and another party wins, it's because the people want that party's view over the other, in principle. But winning an election, at least in today's day and time, may not be the only thing you need to form a government.
True, because you see, there is various levels to this. There is something known as cash for vote, which is also happening in many parts of the country. So, which means the electorate is also quite corrupt. So, when you have a cash for vote situation and the cost of election is so high, the person who gets elected also is looking at various permutations and combinations post elections and might move on to greener pastures because of the enticements which are available to him or her. It's very unfortunate. So, but this can be limited. I can't see we can eliminate it if you go to only to committed party cadre who become candidates. See, a lot of times the candidates are not committed party cadre. And that is where I think they are more liable to move away rather than people who have marked time, who are sort of invested emotionally within the organization for a long time. And I think they would find it a little bit more difficult to move away. I'm not saying they won't, but they'll find it more difficult to move away. But the cost of elections and the cost of elections is also getting higher, is also because the electorate is getting corrupt in a lot of ways. So and that is throwing up a certain kind of a candidate who's getting elected, who's again is susceptible to be bought over.
You know, we are so taking a step back from the process of politics and looking more at the intent of politics. How important do you think ideology is in all of this?
Ideology is very important. You know, you need to believe in something. Otherwise, why are you in politics? I mean, you have to believe in something. I mean, how much ever I don't like the BJP, I must give it to them that they believe in something. I don't accept what they believe in. I don't endorse what they believe in, but they believe in a certain version of an India which I don't believe in. So we must believe in something. That's what are you fighting for otherwise? You're not fighting for a car with a red light. I mean, or an escort or a salute from a uniformed guard. You're fighting to create or to shape society in the way you think it's best. The BJP thinks in a certain way, we think in a certain way. So it's worth fighting for our corner as they are fighting for their corner. And hopefully we'll be able to convince more people that our corner is a better corner than their corner.
Now we're going to change tact a little bit and talk to that other version of you, the tennis lover. You know, in preparing for this interview, I read a little bit about some of your very unique and very long interactions with the sport of tennis. So before we do anything else, why tennis? Why not cricket?
No, I'm a complete tennis nut. I mean, I started playing tennis at the age of 9. I mean, I started playing tennis because in 1980, it was the first time they telecast Wimbledon live on television. It was a Bjorn Borg versus John McEnroe match. My father supported Bjorn Borg and automatically I supported John McEnroe. I saw him for the first time. I mean, I became a complete fan. He still is my all-time favorite tennis player, and I wanted to play tennis immediately. And I think I was, I was reasonably good at it. I progressed well. I was ranked. I played university level tennis in America and England. I played a few international tournaments as a junior. I was ranked in India. So it's just that my involvement in tennis only got better. And it's for me, it is my passion. It is so simple. It's two people playing with one ball, and the better man or a better player will always win on that day. There is nothing else which matters. It's so black and white, So it's so clear, and it's something which I intrinsically identify with. I clearly understand it, and it's my passion. And I unfortunately I don't play as much as I used to, but I competed to a good level. I still understand the sport. I follow the sport. It'll be there with me for the rest of my life. As far as cricket is concerned, I played decent cricket as well. In fact, it's not as if I didn't play cricket, but tennis was my first passion. In fact, I played good club cricket in India, and in fact I captained college in Cambridge in both tennis and cricket in Wolfson College. So and I captained even in the University of Texas. I captained the university in cricket, and I played tennis for them as well. So I played tennis and cricket to a good level, but tennis was obviously is a bigger passion. But right now I don't watch much cricket, because when I grew up there was one Indian cricket team and I could name all the 11 players. Now we have a test team, we have a 50 over team, we have a 20 over team. So I can't name all the players now as I used to. In fact, the World Cup team of 1983 sticks in my head more than any other team in my life.
Just about tennis, I still remember watching Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi hammer it out. The location would change, the tournament would change. It could be the French Open, it could be Wimbledon, it could be American Open. But there was that round 2, round 3 was global. You didn't know that the next tournament would be where these two giants would come and meet. And like that, Federer and Nadal, there's so many permutations. But what do you think is going to take for India to be a part of that conversation, to be able to produce players?
I mean, a lot can be done. First, I think tennis, while it's an individual sport, it needs strong family or parental support, because there's been no tennis player in the world who's not come out without good family or parental support. It's an expensive sport. But you also need an environment and a system to make players. There are many countries which have succeeded in that. I mean, Spain is a classic example, Sweden before, Germany, Argentina, Canada now, Italy, and America, of course, for many, many years. You have to have a system in which talent is spotted, talent is trained, and the talent is allowed to compete with a good opposition throughout the year. So you need to have many facets to it. And in India, unfortunately, the AITA, which I have been part of in the past, is simply a private family fiefdom, and it has no vision, no leadership, or no inclination to create an environment which will produce proper tennis players. So I can't see a big level tennis player coming out of the Indian system. Anybody who's even made it has made it primarily because of their own efforts and their family's efforts, and they've escaped the Indian environment and gone and based them out of Europe or America, where they've trained and they've come up. See, what tennis actually needs, if you ask me in a very simplistic manner, we need a Gopi Chand. What a Gopi Chand did for badminton, we need somebody to do that for tennis here. And that there are people who are capable of doing it, but I think they need to be encouraged. I think Somdev Dev Varman is somebody who can actually be director of tennis in India. I mean, he understands fitness, he's reasonably contemporary, he understands what it takes to train. See, what you really need is, you don't need a system to produce a Federer. You need a system which will produce 5 players who can be the top 100. Then they will spawn a better player, and that one player will come to the top 10, and then eventually somebody will become a big class player. So what we really need is a Gopi Chand. I think Gopi Chand revolutionized badminton, and we need him. Like Vishwanathan Anand, to a great extent, has been the catalyst for chess. Yes. We have more than 65, or more than 64, one for each square. We have more than that now. I think we're close to even 70 grandmasters. It's that. Then there was a whole bunch of people who became coaches. But whereas we don't have that kind of depth in Indian coaching, and that has to happen. Initially, you need foreign coaches, but you need one director of tennis kind of thing. Not run the federation, but run the training part of tennis, who has to be a former player. And in my personal opinion, the best person for that job in India would be Somdev Devar.
Oh. No, I couldn't agree more. I think sport is a great emancipator. It's a great liberator. We've seen the power of sport all across the world. So sort of now moving on to, another forum in which you express yourself very eloquently, and if I might say quite clearly, which in the world of politics is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. Social media. Your presence on social media is very direct. You don't speak through proxies, you don't speak through agencies, you speak yourself. You're very approachable in person and even on social media. I've seen you respond to quite a few people, I've seen you comment, and I've also seen you take a rather independent individual stand. What shapes a lot of that?
That's who I am. I'm very opinionated. I change my mind also about lots of things. So I think anybody who says they never change their mind about anything is an unthinking person. I've changed my mind about lots of things. I'm very opinionated, and as I said, I don't see myself as a politician who's going to keep his head down and not speak up. I'm not that. I am in public life because I believe in things very, very strongly. And if I survive, I want to survive on my terms. If I succeed, I want to succeed on my terms. While I'm not disrespecting the rules of the game, but I don't want to, give up my individuality or my thought process or what I strongly believe in just because I have to fit in. And that's never been my intention. I've never wanted to fit into anything. I know I'm not necessarily universally liked, but a lot of people don't like me, not because they have had a bad personal experience with me. A lot of people would not like me because they think I'm entitled, which is true. I am entitled. I come from privilege. I don't deny it. I am a dynast. I've had opportunities which others would not have had only because of my accident of birth. But I know a lot of people don't like that, and I don't blame them for it. If I was in their shoes, I won't like me too, because this kind of...
Is it you or the idea of you?
The idea of me, and perhaps my own demeanor and persona which comes out of that. It is not contrite. That is who I am. I have been shaped like this, and I understand why people take offense to the idea of me or to the persona of me because of how I come across. I don't blame them at all. But of course, nothing justifies the viciousness at times. But I understand the pushback because of the entitlement which I've had. But I'm not the only one who's been entitled in this country. There have been many people in many fields who have been entitled. But I can understand why this pushback is coming against people in public life, and because they think it's had it easy, and they're just privileged, and they come from a certain background, particularly a very westernized background, or with an overseas education. I understand that, so I'm not grudging people for that, but that's still not going to make me conformist or give up what I believe in or what I stand up for, which will always be for individual liberty and free enterprise.
It's so refreshing, if I might say, for the brute honesty. And I say brute because not sometimes, all the time, people assume that the truth is somehow relative in politics. The degrees of truth.
See, I don't know. See, of course, everything is today in this world of fake news. What is real, what is fake is also subjective. But I don't see any merit in me trying to be somebody I'm not. And especially when I've made it very clear to myself that I want to succeed or survive on my terms. While I respect the protocols, I respect the grammar of the whole situation, I want to do it without compromising of who I am. And I'm not saying that is a formula for success. It might not be. I don't consider myself immensely successful politically, because at my age, when I had ambition, I still have ambition, I thought I'll be somewhere else. When I said somewhere else, in my political trajectory would have been completely different, but it's gone where it's gone, and I have to deal with it at the moment where it's going.
So this sort of segues perfectly into my last few questions. Taking a sort of step back now and looking at some of the facets that we've been able to discuss, some of the conduits through which you're able to manifest you and your thinking and your views and your experiences. The journey thus far has been a unique one. It's been tumultuous at times. It's been hard at times. It's been, like you said, you've come from privilege, but you're also trying to give back and you're trying to use your privilege to help people. Just between you, me, and the millions of people who watch this, I hope.
I hope so too.
Who will watch this. What's the note you want to compare on that?
You see, as I said, I have been privileged and I continue to be privileged, but I've also been hounded because of that. I mean, the only reason I've been hounded for the last 6 years, since 2015, is because I'm my father's son. And the only reason is that because my father has been the most, perhaps the most articulate and vehement critic of this government. And this government wants to send a signal that it could, however articulate you are, however eminent you are, I will humiliate you. I will humiliate you and I'll hound you to silence. But that's not going to happen. My father is not going to get silenced because they're harassing him, and he's been harassed. Everybody knows that. It's a matter of record. And by harassing me, we are not going to cow down. We are not going to be silenced. I mean, some people can be and some people can't, and we are in the lot which can't be silenced. And I'll have to deal with it as but what is happening to me has colored the opinion many people have about me. I mean, all kinds of slander is applied, all kind of rumor, gossip. But what can I do? I mean, we are fighting the organs of the state, but there are other organs of the state which have not done their job. That's why this is going on. I mean, it's obvious that agencies are being misused. When you go seek relief in the forums which are supposed to give relief, you do it in a very delayed manner. So this continues, and this is just hounding. I mean, I know eventually nothing is going to come out of it. I'll be fine. But the process is the quote unquote the punishment for being an opponent of this government, and they do it consistently. We are not the only ones who have to do it, but we have been perhaps one of the more prominent ones they have steadfastly gone against us in many ways. But it's disrupted my life greatly. But what can I do? I will soldier on, and I don't intend to bow. I don't intend to bend.
I mean, that's it is inspiring, and sort of, again, wonderful segue into the last question I wanted to ask you. And I would say, again, this would be one of the other notes that I think will be one of the key takeaways for a lot of the people, a lot of the fellows of AIPC who are all professionals, people who don't really have the time for full-time politics. The first thing you said about balance, these are people who have jobs, have careers, have family life, and they may or may not have an interest in politics. Some of them are now thinking, with the way things are going, that now better than any other time is a time for them to step up and try and take a plunge. So what notes would you have for those AIPC fellow professionals who aren't full-time party workers but who want to consider an election?
I think being a full-time party worker is complicated. How do you be a full-time party worker? You need to have a stream of income to have your independence and to have your dignity. So I think it's very essential that everybody, particularly professionals, continue to be professionals and offer themselves spare time to be in politics. And if the opportunity comes to be elected and then they hold positions which can give them a salary or the infrastructure to continue the public life, they should. But I don't think anybody should. I don't think people who are full-time politicians actually bring in a greater dimension to public discourse at all. I think people who have other careers bring a much more greater variety and value to public life, because you bring in different perspectives. It's very important in politics to have diversity of perspective. And I think unless you're a professional, unless you have done other things in life, I think you will be, if you're only an activist politician as such. I'm not diminishing their role, but everybody should not be an activist politician, because that will not bring in the diversity of perspective, which is very essential for governance and for the politics of this country.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been one of the most inspired conversations we've had thus far. So I want to thank you.
Thank you, Aalim.
On behalf of our team and our fellows. And we look forward to your we first and foremost we wish you every success, and we get that clearly out of the way.
I need that.
And you know, aside from the obvious, I think it's also important for us to say that having a person like you, not, you know, you represent two constituencies, right? You represent the physical constituency, and then you represent this ideological one that you're fighting for constantly, that transcends state and boundaries. We just want to convey. No, we just want to convey that.
Yeah.
Thank you for getting up every morning and going to work, and for fighting to keep what we hold dear the way it is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this wonderful interview. If you've not become a fellow of the All India Professionals Congress, I have to do my job. Please do join us, www.profcongress.com/register. It's a 1, 2, 3 process, and it would be great to have you on board. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Aalim.
Have a good day.